Hello everybody, my name is Alexander Wilson Jr. and this is my diversity video project. One of the main reasons why I had thought of the idea to do the diversity video project was in order to highlight some of the important concepts that make UCR the wonderful university that it is. 4 of these main concepts that we focused on in this video are diversity, inclusivity, cultural competency, and equity, or in other words, DICE.
I feel like culture can be anything. There's no set borders to what is culture. Anything from how you dress, what you eat, your language, that's all your culture. And I feel like diversity is appreciating and respecting the different culture amongst all the different people here at UCR.
Diversity is accepting that everybody has differences and being okay with those differences.
Diversity to me means sharing our similarities and celebrating our differences. It's cool to highlight all the differences that we have, but at the end of the day, we're more similar than we think.
UCR, we really emphasize on, we're diverse, but I feel like being able to have a diverse community, everyone has to be educated about everyone's differences, how people are brought up.
Obviously race is an important thing, but another important thing to me is people that might have different challenges, have different religions.
Yeah, I think at UCR we're exposed to a lot of differences, whether it's just minorities or different socioeconomic status of students. So I think that exposure has led me to a positive experience at UCR. I've had overall just good experiences, and that's whether it's through professors or Costo Hall, through other students. It's just been overall positive.
Yeah, that's what diversity is to me. It's just respecting each other and understanding everyone's culture and also the struggles that we may go through or have gone through as people in this world.
So yeah, there could be many students of color on this campus, but if they didn't feel empowered enough to express themselves and where they come from, then I wouldn't say there would be diversity. So for me, diversity is being able to come to this campus and feel that you are free to be yourself and all of your identities.
So I feel like inclusivity is of utmost importance. That's how we create community, that's how we create family, that's how we deal with differences, that's how we deal with hate.
I do believe that UC Riverside is an inclusive environment. I do believe that there are a lot of different communities within UC Riverside, a lot of different cultures that are represented within UC Riverside, whether that is race culture or sexual identity or gender identity or political identity. There's a lot of different opportunities to get involved pertaining to how you identify and what you are interested in.
Be inclusive means more that you're gonna understand and maybe appreciate all the different types of people, and you're gonna want to include them in your discussion, in your program, in your activity, whatever sort of group effort you're working on, making sure those people feel like they're cared about and included, and working harmoniously with them, in tandem to being a leader on campus.
If you want to respect inclusivity or respect somebody, the whole term of being diverse, you have to be willing to understand both sides. So one side might be the majority and the other side is the minority, but both sides have to understand each other in order to actually be able to work together and be able to go to campus knowing you can feel comfortable regardless of how you're brought up or what your beliefs are.
I remember going to a meeting at Berkeley as a UCR representative, and we had to do this bingo game, and during the bingo game, the card literally said things that people of privilege were only able to do. Coming from a lower income family, I wasn't able to go skydiving, I wasn't able to learn 6 different languages, I wasn't able to travel abroad, and those were the things that bingo card held. So for me to read that, I already felt marginalized in that space. I felt like I was shut down. I didn't feel very welcome. after that, I didn't really want to speak, but then I knew the importance of my words, and I knew the value of my presence there. So that pushed me to come back to UCR and to encourage students to be part of these meetings, to be able to be student representatives for UCR.
And why I applied to UCR was because they had family housing and they had the Child Development Center. So I think just at a foundational level, that UCR cares for student families because they provide these services.
Because I noticed UCR does a great job for students with disabilities. Because as I go there, I've noticed that it's not just me. There's many students that have these disabilities.
I have been able to experience that safe space that you're talking about, for sure, on campus with the different programs that, for one, the ethnic and gender programs hold, especially at the Middle Eastern Student Center.
Coastal Hall is always every center, Middle Eastern Student Center, Chicano, Asian Pacific, African, Bi-Center, Native American student programs, and documented, and the Women's Resource Center. Definitely really make it inclusive and help everybody here on the campus.
A big part of the reason why I feel like UCR is like overall family friendly is because of the students and the support from Coastal Hall and Diversity Council, and just all of y'all have been so supportive.
I believe there should be more joint things instead of everybody having the same week. Oh, it's this so Women's Week, it's this Women's Week. But it's like, why don't we have one event where it's like all women or all minorities? Like, I feel like there's not enough joint events to show that diversity.
Like, we have resource centers provided, we have different spaces created for different communities, but still, like, in those safe spaces, like, violence can still be perpetuated.
But I also see that spaces, for example, by the bell tower, I remember the Greek letters being out there all the time. And I remember going out of my way to avoid those spaces because I felt that I was being judged. I felt that I was being marginalized by certain sororities. And I was also a target for a lot of fraternities. I remember instead of being asked to attend a fundraiser or to support them, I was asked to go to parties with them while on my way to class. And nobody wants to be walking and be harassed in that way. And I think it's very important that we address these things because they are out there almost every single day. And those are spaces that are very common. They're spaces where students hang out all the time. So for a woman to have to go through that, that's not right.
I think it depends on the spaces that I'm occupying, definitely. We feel sometimes like our experiences aren't as represented or like our needs aren't as represented. It's important that as your fellow peers, you shouldn't be perpetuating any kind of harm towards the people that enter these spaces. So it's important to hold yourself accountable and your friends for the language they use, the jokes they make. Also just making sure that no harm is done to the people that occupy these spaces, and harm can mean so many things.
I think we've all experienced someone either tabling or those people that come onto our campus and yeah, not in all of my classes, but I have experienced in some classes where people are very misinformed about undocumented immigrants, and it can be very insulting, the fact that they don't know about our experience, but they are quick to just believe what they're being told by either the media or other people that are very anti-immigrant.
If students want to be allies, they should be active allies. They shouldn't just say, I'm with you, I support you, you're a great person, or yeah, I have a friend who's undocumented. No, that's not the only thing you should be doing. You should also be going with them to meetings. You should also be going with them to protests. You should also be there for them and be a support system, because you can only do so much with words. I think actions are very powerful.
We felt it was really important to have a diversity video that focused on these four main concepts, because we wanted to be able to create an atmosphere where people feel that diverse communities are supported, where people are inclusive towards one another, where individuals from different cultures have the competency levels to be able to interact with one another, and so people can acknowledge their different privileges and the inequities that exist in society.
My identity formed my worldview in a sense where it teaches me not to be comfortable. Being black, being a woman, we were put in a situation where we aren't privileged. So it's like, if you're not white, if you're not a white male, you especially don't have any type of privileges. Every day I step out my door, I'm reminded that I'm a black person. When I'm at the store, when I'm driving, if I'm getting food, running in to get school supplies, whatever it is, I'm always reminded that I'm a black person. And depending on how I dress or me wearing these hoop earrings, you know, I could say I'm involved in this, I'm involved in that, but when I'm interacting with certain people, yes, white people, just because of how I look on the outside, it doesn't matter how I articulate myself or what I'm involved in. Because of something simple as I'm a black woman wearing gold hoop earrings, they will look at me differently. For example, I'm in a historically black sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho, but just knowing that my founders went to a predominantly white school and like they had to work hard to keep it there. The school even decreased the amount of black females that they let into the school to make it harder for my sorority to actually expand and be accepted and acknowledged by MPHC. So I always have to keep that in the back of my mind and remember to stay as true and authentic to myself and who I am. So even something like waking up in the morning and choosing what I'm going to wear throughout the day, you know, understanding like, okay, I may have a presentation or I may have a meeting with this administration or this administrator today. Remembering that, okay, if I want to wear a head wrap, I'm going to wear the head wrap regardless of if I'm going to be in that meeting with upper administration. Staying true to who I am and how I best feel comfortable. The one that I'm always battling is the difference between being black and being African American. I definitely am proud to be, I like to say melanated, because it's like, that's the most like non-controversial thing. Nobody's gonna argue with me about it.
Well, the United States as a whole is native land. So when people say like, you know, talk about reservations, talk about being on Indian land and stuff, they say like, oh, is it, you know, I have to remind them like everywhere is Indian land. So especially for me, like this is Kauai territory, where UC Riverside resides on ancestrally. So yeah, this whole area is native people and we're from here. So it's really important to always remember that and not try to erase native history.
I think being a first-generation college student, it was a struggle. I didn't have anyone who paved my way. I didn't have an example or a role model back home. I had people pushing me to get to college, but I didn't have people explaining to me the process. It took me 2 years to find a mentor. I was fortunate enough to find the Women's Resource Center, but a lot of students don't get that, and so they become numbers in the retention rate.
In the classroom, when I have to bring my child and I get glares from students that don't understand that. They don't understand why I'm bringing a kid to class. Or when I bring them to events, I get these looks like, why is the child getting food? Like, it's just something so simple, like, why is that an issue? Or when teachers don't understand that. So, I mean, a large percentage of the teachers that I've asked if I could bring her to school have been really, really fine with it. Others have been like, as long as she's quiet. Like, you know, I can't determine if she's going to be quiet that day or not. You know, it just depends. And for that person to say that, it really was like hurtful, because so should I not come to class if I can't guarantee that she's going to be quiet?
Because obviously I can't drive right now because I have epilepsy. That would kind of be a disaster if I had a seizure while I was driving. I have to be worrying about having a seizure during, say, a midterm or a final, which would be even worse. And I have had that multiple times, actually. You'd think I would be graduated by now, but I haven't. And the reason why that is because of my epilepsy issues. But you know what, I kept moving forward.
And then in the Child Development Center, or ECS now, I felt like I wasn't treated as an equal because I am young and because I'm not established in my career and I'm still working towards it, that I wasn't respected as a parent or even considered as a professional. No, so, I mean, there's been instances, but, I mean, I've had a relatively good experience in terms of respect.
Being a commuter on campus, that affects my student experience because it limits my time on campus. It limits my opportunities, my experiences. I want to be on campus more often, but really because of my attachment and dependency on my family, You know, I have to leave from campus and go back and be there with my family, support them, and as they support me. And I feel like students on campus are able to build a stronger community than those that live off campus.
I mean, being foster youth, I'm very pessimistic. I feel like the carpet can be pulled out from under me at any moment. Being a mom, I like to be a little more positive because of her.
As an Arab American woman, I feel like a lot of the stereotypes that come along with that is that, oh, she's Muslim, like why isn't she wearing a hijab, like, and it's like, well, there's also the idea of intersectionality, and I'm Christian, like, you know, like, so I identify as Syrian and Arab, and people assume that I'm also Muslim, but even if I was Muslim, I shouldn't have to explain, like, I should not explain myself. I shouldn't have to defend my religion. Like, does that mean like, oh, I'm Muslim, I'm a terrorist? Or does that mean because I'm Muslim, I'm like already a bad person just by like my religion?
Sometimes I'm in a classroom where the only like queer person or the only like person of color. So I feel like it relies on us a lot, you know, to spread knowledge on like issues and stuff. So, and then you're also exposed to a lot of, like I said, a lot of the people that take classes in the humanities aren't humanities majors themselves, so maybe they haven't learned like how to walk around sensitive topics or sensitive language and stuff, so it could be very triggering, and then just having to like call them out or something, like if nobody else does, it's a lot of emotional labor, yeah, and like intellectual labor that we have to definitely go through in classes.
I don't know, I just feel like there's been more of this fear among our community. Which, I mean, I know we are very like, you know, undocumented, unafraid, but I think sometimes it's okay to recognize that there are people that are afraid, you know? And I think that that has affected me as a student. Some students don't have to worry about like, what if today's the day I come home and like, my dad's not gonna be there, you know? And like, that was something that for a long time I didn't really think about. I just always thought like that could never happen to me. But recently it's just become something that's more, been more of a worry.
A year ago, last September, I was sexually assaulted in my own apartment. I was raped, and it became really difficult for me. It took me about a month to realize what had happened, just because I couldn't accept it, I couldn't come to terms with it. And when I finally did, it led to a lot of panic attacks, a lot of crying. I kind of just felt like I was walking around, my skin was like this jacket that I was wearing. And there became days where I just was so weak that I couldn't get out of bed to even go to class. And having to tell my professors, hey, I'm not in class today because I can't stop crying. It was very difficult for me. I had professors that were pretty understanding, and then other professors that were like, okay, well, you can go get therapy and make it to class. But they don't tell you what to do when something bad happens. They don't tell you what to do when like your best friend commits suicide, or you've been raped, or someone that you love dies. And I've realized for me and for like a lot of my friends that the biggest challenge coming up on us is that we don't know what to do when we're in those situations. And my idea from our last conversation would be to create a safe word that students could tell their professors. That generally meant like, I've been sexually assaulted. Because for me personally, being able to say the word rape, it took me almost a year to even be able to say it.
I feel like being a Black woman, we've had to demand our respect, and now we are respected. So it's not a sense of people just willingly gave our respect. Like, just looking at things in the past, we've always had to do, like your parents say, like you're always gonna have to do more than your colleagues because we are Black. So I think being brought up with that mindset, I've always demanded respect by putting in work extra somewhere else, or just my personality, being open-minded, being willing to teach and educate people. So I feel like it also depends on the person. So it's like respect comes with like how you approach people and like how you carry yourself. You always have to put in that extra effort, and it's like some people are just like, well, that's not fair, but and like you're just looking at reality, like that's how it is, and how we change that is like by putting each other in these positions where we can be privileged.
I do have privileges as an Asian American in the U.S. society, most definitely, but I also recognize the forms of oppression that are against me. So understanding my social position really made me understand like the background of who I am, but also understanding who I am right now and, you know, what I can do in the future.
Like I have to hold myself accountable too if I'm ever, you know, like overstepping or talking over somebody else. And I feel like it also just helps me really recognize like instances where people are kind of being mistreated or hurt.
I want to thank TRIO Scholars, which is a program for students in high school, and it's a college prep program. And I think if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. They were the ones who took us on tours. They were the ones who, you know, helped us with our applications. But I don't think they had the funds to teach us what happened here once you got to college. And I think that was a struggle for me. I think if we were to put ourselves more out there, if we advocate more for first-generation college students and students of color too. I mean, you don't have to be first generation. I think making sure that they know about these services is very important, and I hope that helps them graduate on time because it is a struggle when you're first.
Guardian Scholars is a program here on campus that helps former foster and current foster transition through higher ed. They have an office here on campus, and they provide support through, there's a food pantry, there's a toaster, refrigerator if we need to store food. They have computers accessible to us so we can print. They do a class weekly for some of the for first years and second years about money management, figuring out their way through college. They provide a stipend at the end of the school year if we've been successful in our courses. And then they kind of fill that void when it comes to family. They have annual Christmas parties. And then if someone doesn't have a place to go for the holidays, for Thanksgiving, one of the steering committee members will put on a big holiday party, and those stragglers will come over there.
I think since like the start of like really getting myself into organizing is definitely trying to dismantle like the apathy amongst Asian American students. It's really hard to like have like those critical conversations about like social issues, and a lot of times like you can just see like a lot of like Asian American students, they're just very apathetic and just want to go through their day without realizing like the political climate, like what's going on. But I realized like, oh, like with the current political climate, like conversations are just starting. And so I mean, I do appreciate like, you know, the start in this, like, oh, people talking about like Trump administration and also like those executive orders, but also hoping that to move from like those conversations into like actual actions.
During my time here, I only had about 3 professors who affiliated with my ethnicity, and I think seeing more people who look like me is very important for me in my education and the empowerment it brings me. And I also see a lack of diversity within staff here in the university. I think for students, students are very vocal of the need for a diverse campus, but how can we have how could we own up to being a diverse campus when we're not diverse as a whole?
In summation, I really hope that as you've come on this journey with myself and all these UCR students, you've really taken a new perspective on what diversity, inclusivity, cultural competency, and equity truly mean. Additionally, I hope that this diversity video project has really made you learn a lot and has allowed you to open your eyes to new things, because the ultimate goal for this video was for individuals to get to know more so that we fear less.